Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. $84 million to stage by-elections next month. PNP takes issue with JLP's candidate for South Trelawney by-election. And later in sports, Cavalier through to the final of CONCACAF Caribbean Cup for second straight year. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kerry Simpson. Here are the details. Taxpayers will fork out close to $100 million for next month's 4 by-elections. The details were revealed this morning by Director of Elections Glasspool Brown. More in this report.
Hundreds of Jamaicans will go to the polls next month to select their elected representatives at the local and constituency levels. The announcement was made by Prime Minister Andrew Holness at Wednesday's post-cabinet post-briefing. Speaking on the morning agenda on Power 6, the Electoral Office of Jamaica says the 4 by-elections will cost Jamaicans $84 million. Director of Elections Glasspool Brown says it is estimated to cost $60 million to stage elections in Trelawney South and St. Andrew Northwestern, and $12 million per election in the Annan Town and Morant Bay divisions. The budget is to be submitted to the Ministry of Finance. Mr. Brown says the EOJ had been preparing in anticipation of the calling of additional by-elections.
We had anticipated the election they called, given what we have heard in the public domain from when the Centre and North-East election was called. And therefore we had started some preparation. Where we are now, we are in preparation mode for nomination day next week, Wednesday, in the 4 locations. So we are just fine-tuning the budget. We to submit to Ministry of Finance, which we'll be doing that today. We have started the process of contacting our workers, and then we are setting up schedules to begin training as early as Monday.
Now he says the EOJ will be using the by-elections to measure the degree to which changes can be made to improve the voting process ahead of the general elections, constitutionally due next year.
We mobilize from our end in terms of, because we're just focusing on just one election, there are a number of things that we put in place. We want to extend it a little bit in terms of how we report our election, the speed at which we do, and we were fairly quick in that by-election, and so based on that tweaking, we will hopefully do it a little bit different for the full election when it comes. So there are some things that we're trying in when we're using the by-election as a gauge in terms of some changes that we want to make in terms of our processing.
Nomination day for the by-elections is November 6 and election day is November 22. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
The People's National Party says it will be fielding candidates for the by-elections in Morant Bay and Annan Town divisions. However, General Secretary of the PNP, Dr. Dayton Campbell, maintains that the party will not be contesting parliamentary by-elections. He adds that Jamaicans should speak out against the reinstatement of Marissa Dalrymple Philibert as a JLP's standard bearer for Trelawney Southern, despite 8 outstanding criminal charges arising from her making a false statement in her statutory declarations to the Integrity Commission. He says the move is highly disrespectful to the country's judicial system.
On December 5, that criminal charges and the court ruled for the criminal charges against her. What would be the position that the country would be? It seems awfully contemptuous of the court and, smart with a level of arrogance, disregard for process, that one would have resigned and be returned without the resolution of the matter. So we are not participating in those.
Mrs. Dalrymple Philibert had omitted a Mercedes-Benz motor vehicle from her filings to the Integrity Commission between 2015 and 2021. She stated that the omission of the vehicle was a genuine oversight. She's to return to court on December 6 when Parish Court Judge Leighton Morris will decide whether the Integrity Commission's case against her should be thrown out or proceed to trial. The private sector organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, believes the first order of business for new Finance Minister Favour Williams should be to stimulate economic growth. Prime Minister Andrew Holness yesterday announced that Mrs. Williams has replaced Dr. Nigel Clark. Minister Williams is the first woman to serve in the position. President of the private sector organization of Jamaica, Metri Siaga, says Mrs. Williams should continue to pursue fiscal responsibility while encouraging growth.
Has the capabilities, as the Prime Minister said. I think she has the experience. Now we just hope that she puts that experience and that knowledge to use, and that the fiscal responsibility that has been shown by the Ministry of Finance over the last 9 years continues. But the change that we hope to see is that there is some effort put into growth in the economy, because without the growth, we have done the hard work. Now we need the growth in the economy to keep going.
Farmers in St. Thomas are appealing for deplorable farm roads in their communities to be fixed. They say due to the condition, it is harder for them to get their produce to market. Details in this report.
This is the road in Hayfield, St. Thomas. It has been in this state for several years, also leaving holes in the pockets of farmers. They complain it's expensive to get their produce to market.
It's my farming, I know, I not get no support on. I not get no support on. I not get nothing, none at all. Field for myself. No fertilizer, we not get no chemical, we not get no seed, we not get no machine, no file, nothing at all. We just lack off on us.
So when you're ready to reap, they have difficult carrying out,
Yeah, man, because the road bad and something, and then where the people don't want to come on the bad road and so.
We need help, because when you're a farmer and when you are a poor farmer and trying, we need the support, right?
There's also a concern about how farmers in the country are treated.
A young man leave school and want to plant up coffee, and last year too long the farmer then rough. That now can't work, bossy. Because last year when they give him money, and don't give him money, look at chicken back feet, and that cannot work. Man want money for the purpose, yeah. That can't work, big man. This year I talk about man pick up, man give much in $1,000 box. Like take with food, sir.
But their cries are about to be addressed as the Jamaica Agricultural Commodity Regulatory Authority, JACRA, and the National Works Agency are partnering to rehabilitate roads in the coffee farming area. This will be done through the government's Coffee Farm Road Rehabilitation Program. Acting Director General of JACRA, Wayne Hunter, told the farmers that close to $10 million has been earmarked for the program. He, however, noted that the program will not be able to address all the roads at once. However, the agency is committed to having all of them back in operation.
And I know that the advisory officers, under the direction of our advisory coordinator, Mr. Gerald Brand, and the NWA has been actively assessing and reviewing and preparing a bill of quantity so that we can understand the cost.
And it's time for a break. Stay with us. More local stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. Head of the School of Public Health and Health Technology at the University of Technology, Dr. Kevin Harvey, says there is a significant gap to be filled for public health practitioners across the island. He is also calling for more to be done to improve the educational status of young men at the secondary level. More in this report.
Speaking at the 78th Annual Education Conference for Public Health Inspectors this week, head of the School of Public Health and Health Technology at the University of Technology, Dr. Kevin Harvey, said currently there are 40 public health practitioners being trained.
The Ministry of Health has created a number of positions now for some of these public health practitioners. And so there's a gap in the field based on the high level of attrition of these workers. There's a significant gap in the ministry. So we're trying to train more to fill that gap.
Dr. Harvey says while there has been an increase in the number of persons being trained, there's still a shortage.
I think there's a shortage based on what is required to manage the extent of public health issues that we have in the country. So there's definitely a shortage. We need to train more, and we need more persons to be practicing in Jamaica. Many of who we train leave the profession and go into other areas or migrate into other Caribbean countries that that takes them, because many of the other smaller countries do not have this training program. So they wait for us to be trained and then they just take them.
It is why he's calling for more to be done to improve the educational status of young men at the secondary level to help fill this gap.
Unfortunately, I mean, it's good for the women who are taking responsibility and furthering their education, but many of our men are left behind. And this is a general symptom of many of our courses at UTech and UWI, and most of our tertiary institutions, where the vast majority of the persons in the classes are females. And we are having a challenge with our boys at the secondary level.
It's time now for the Business Minute.
Elite Diagnostics revenue increased by 8.7%, reaching $821.28 million for the year ended June 30, compared to $755.33 million in the previous year. The increase was due to fourth quarter revenue growth, which surged by nearly 29% to $244.18 million when compared to the similar quarter in the previous financial year. The imaging company also achieved a 12.7% increase in gross profit, reaching $593.86 million, supported by a 0.2% reduction in direct costs. The company also reported an 11.5% increase in administrative expenses for the financial year under review. Further afield, the Bank of Japan maintained ultra-low interest rates on Thursday, but said risks around the U.S. economy were somewhat subsiding, signaling that conditions are falling into place to raise interest rates again. The central bank also projected inflation would move around its 2% target in the coming years, stressing its resolve to keep raising borrowing costs if the economy sustains a moderate recovery. The BOJ next meets for a policy meeting on December 18 and 19, followed by another meeting on January 23 to 24. The board cut its core consumer inflation forecast for fiscal 2025 to 1.9% from 2.1% in the previous estimate in July, but said risks were skewed to the upside for that year. Now, it kept unchanged its fiscal 2026 core inflation forecast at 1.9%. For the Business Minute, I'm Shane Masters.
Thanks, Shane. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Trinidad and Tobago-based Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, Wednesday upheld an appeal filed by the Attorney General of Guyana and two members of the ruling People's Progressive Party, Civic, regarding the appointments of two parliamentary secretaries to the National Assembly. In an unanimous ruling, the CCJ, which is Guyana's highest and final court, overturned previous decisions by the Guyana High Court and the Court of Appeal, affirming the lawful appointments of Vikash Ramkasoon and Sarah Brown as parliamentary secretaries in the National Assembly. On the international scene, rescuers in southern Spain are working tirelessly to find anyone still missing after flash flooding killed at least 95 people in the region. It's not clear how many are unaccounted for, but hundreds of soldiers have been sent to Valencia, one of the worst hit areas, to help with the operation. Some areas can only be reached by helicopter due to roads being blocked by mud, debris, and piles of cars. And Israeli strikes have killed 19 people, including 8 women, around Lebanon's eastern city of Baalbek. It came hours after tens of thousands of residents fled in response to evacuation orders issued by Israeli military that covered the entire city and 2 neighboring towns. Mayor Mustav Al-Shel said more than 20 strikes were reported on Wednesday afternoon in the Baalbek area, with 5 inside the city itself, where there is a UNESCO-listed ancient Roman temple complex. The Israeli military said it has struck Hezbollah command and control centers and infrastructure in Baalbek and Nabatea in southern Lebanon. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Raquel Porter.
Thanks, Raquel. And we go to another break. When we come back, Midday Sports.